Hi, I'm Bill Hodges. Spotlight on Government is not conflict television, but rather a safe and sane place for public servants to express their views and communicate directly with their constituents. Those who would scream and yell to rudely disrupt informational meetings have no place on our show. However, if you are one of the people who really wants to learn what's happening at all levels of government, this is the place for you. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we have Phil Compton with us today with the Seirra Club. Phil, I'm so happy you're here. You know, a lot of people have heard the name Seirra Club, but they think it's something that started during the 60s with the Love Everybody movement and tree hugging and all of that. When did the Seirra Club begin?
Long before the 60s, Bill. Actually, Seirra Club was started by a guy named John Muir back in 1892.
1892?
Yeah, John Muir is a guy who hiked all over America. He was Scottish, and he actually spent some time in Cedar Key after he'd hiked from Jacksonville, and he really got his inspiration for preserving our natural lands here in Florida. But you know John Muir mostly from Yosemite and some of the lands he helped preserve, like Yellowstone National Park with Teddy Roosevelt when he took TR out camping one day.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. He gave TR the inspiration for preserving our natural lands, preserving what's best in America so that it will always be here for Americans to enjoy.
Yeah, that's really surprising to me because, like I said, I thought it started during the 60s with the Love Revolution and watching the environment and all those kinds of things, Clean Water Act, all of that stuff. But having it go back in the 1890s, that's outstanding.
Yeah, our motto is really to preserve and protect and enjoy the natural wild places in America. And we've got some beautiful places right here in Tampa Bay that need to be protected, need to be restored, and they're certainly a lot of fun to enjoy.
You know, it's interesting in our conversations that Phil and I have had, the Seirra Club really walks a balance between what we need today and what we're going to need for the future. And it's not a matter of preserving this particular little piece of ground for some bug, but rather making sure that that bug is necessary for the future.
Well, and we, or for anything that helps us have cleaner air and cleaner water. And one big way to do that now is with clean energy jobs that the Congress is talking about right now.
You know, when you talk about water, I don't know how many of you here a while back happened to see in the St. Petersburg Times was a picture of these big estates on one of the rivers, and I'm not sure what
the St. John's.
So yes. Is it St. John's? Yes. And they're complaining that the river's green, but then I look and I see these huge lawns that are all green and well manicured and everything, and thinking, wait a minute, if the river's green, could it be partially from the green grass?
Absolutely. We've been working with scientists the last few years who've identified the relationship between how and when people put fertilizer on their lawns and why our rivers and lakes are often so green. Most of our lakes and rivers and our bays in Florida are sick, and that's certainly true here in Hillsborough County. And counties and cities have been taking action about that. Turns out it's really all about keeping the fertilizer on your lawn where it does the job that you want it to do, instead of letting it run off.
It seems to me that would be much more economical for the homeowner, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. People are wasting a lot of money by putting fertilizer down in the summer rainy season months when it just is going to get washed off into the water. And if you don't have a lake or a river in your backyard, trust me, it's going to run down the drain and it's going to wind up into the river someplace.
Well, we live in Sun City Center on North Lake, and we have both. We have a lake in our backyard, but all the storm sewers run right into our lake.
Right, or you'd have water in your streets when it rains. But the trick is to use a kind of a fertilizer that you can apply in the springtime before it starts raining, and then again in the fall after it stops raining. So it's half of the nitrogen would be slow release. That way the nitrogen is gradually going to break down throughout the rainy season, and you don't have to apply it during the rainy season. The other thing that counties and cities are moving to is recognizing the fact that we dig up phosphate and ship it overseas, right? Hillsborough County is made out of phosphorus. So why go to your Home Depots or your Lowe's and buy a bag with phosphorus in it and put it on your yard when it's already there in the ground, naturally. So there's action to take out the phosphorus unless you have a soil test that shows that there's something weird about your yard and you need some, but that's extremely unusual. And phosphorus is causing terrible algae blooms in our springs, in our freshwater lakes, all over the state of Florida.
We, out there in Sun City, have really nice Bermuda grass.
Right.
And I don't know whether Bermuda grass is normal to this area or not, but we have a group called Don's Lawns that takes care of our yard. And I've noticed they're extremely careful on how they lay their fertilizer down, staying away from the edge of the lake and that sort of thing. Are there certifications? I think I've seen certifications that Don has for putting it down. Should a person, as a lawn care person, be asking to see a certification?
Absolutely. In fact, what we're moving to here in the Tampa Bay region, wherever Don goes, if he goes over to Clearwater or down to Bradenton or from Sun City Center, he'll have the same set of rules, and that asks people like Don to keep the fertilizer 10 feet away from any body of water. Just makes sense. If you put it right on the edge, it's probably going to get into that lake, isn't it? But also for Don to keep it off of the driveway, off the sidewalk, because that's very important. It's not going, all that's going to wash down the drain. It's not going to
I noticed
help.
with his that
They
go by with a blower.
It's good.
And blow it all back onto my grass.
Right.
Been using them for 6 years, and the yard really looks nice. But
sounds like a good company. And also, when they mow and the grass clippings get onto the street, don't blow them down the stormwater drain. That might be quick and easy, but those blades of grass from your fertilized lawn carry nitrogen and phosphorus into wherever that
I thought they were
drains.
just feeding the tilapia in our lake.
Well, they're going to feed the algae that's going to make it so sick that you'll have an algae bloom and you'll have a terrible event there, and everything will die in your lake. Those things happen.
That's really true, because I remember looking at one of the Google aerial maps or the satellite photography and seeing our lake in the summertime, and it's really green. It doesn't look as bad as you're standing there looking at it, but when you see it from the air, that's pretty green.
And really what 15 different counties and cities on the Gulf Coast of Florida have already done is to recognize that if you put fertilizer on your yard in June, July, August, September, when we get 3/4 of our rain, it's probably going to wash off. So they have ordinances now in those counties, and Hillsborough is thinking about the very same thing right now as we speak, to ask people not to use the fertilizer with nitrogen and phosphorus in the summertime. Instead, use the slow release before it starts raining, and again after it stops raining in October. That way, it won't run off into the lake. It'll stay on your yard. It'll gradually break down. Fertilizer companies are coming up with these products now. They may not be in your store here, but they're in stores in places like Sarasota, where they've had this rule in effect for the last 2 years. And guess what? Not only is the water getting healthier, but turf grass is getting healthier too.
Really?
Too much nitrogen throughout the rainy season actually encourages chinch bugs, and it encourages the root rot fungus called take-all fungus. A place like Palmer Ranch, which is a huge area down there, they've cut their turf replacement cost from $90,000 a year to $6,000 a year. So there's a lot of savings that can be gained by people using this very sensible approach. But not only the homeowner, government's going to save millions of dollars. Our governments, our cities and our counties are spending tens of millions of dollars every year trying to clean up these lakes, and they can't really do it. They can just barely scratch the surface. If we all would just do these simple basic things to help out, do our part, use personal responsibility, then we can not only have cleaner lakes and cleaner rivers and healthier Tampa Bay, but we'll save government tens of millions of dollars that they probably need for something else right now.
Well, you can bet on that.
Yeah.
So we should be talking to our lawn care people about what they're doing as far as putting down fertilizer, what kind they're using?
Well, yes, but what really today what's happening is the Hillsborough County Environmental Protection Commission, which is also your Board of County Commissioners. They put on their environmental hats once a month.
Okay.
They're holding workshops. They've already held 2, and they're holding another workshop on Wednesday, March 31st at the Environmental Protection Commission office. That's on Queen Palm Avenue, just off of Falkenberg Road. That's very near to the 574 exit off of I-75 in the Sable Park area. They're holding that workshop on Wednesday the 31st at 6 p.m., and that's open to the public for input into this rule. Should we have the same kind of rule that Pinellas County passed back in January, that Sarasota has had working very effectively, that 12 other counties and cities are having working very well? Should we recognize the fact that, yeah, it does rain in the summertime, and when it rains, stuff washes off into our rivers, and there's a better way. We don't need to put the nitrogen down. You know, you get a lot of nitrogen from the rain that you get in the summer, and if you put those grass clippings back on your lawn instead of bagging it or blowing it down the drain, that's going to return nitrogen too. When you add all those things up and the use of the slow release products, grass is proving in places like Sarasota, where they've been doing this for 2 years, grass is proving to get plenty of nitrogen.
So we can save government funds, which are our funds.
Right.
We can save our own dollars.
Right.
We can make an environmental change in the water supply. And we're drinking this stuff, too. And I imagine that nitrogen sinking down through and everything goes with everything else.
That's right. And it costs you about $5 a pound to buy nitrogen at your store. It costs government $200, $250 a pound to try to get it out of the water.
Ouch!
Yeah. So if you want to cut taxes, and it does have to get removed from the water, because we've got some serious problems. So if you want to cut taxes, and again, let our county commissioners use those funds for better things like parks or libraries or whatever, you know, roads. Let's do our part. And
Or public access television.
Or public access television, absolutely. A little bit of savings, because your budget here in public access television is probably equal to, I don't know, one stormwater filtration system. There's a very expensive way of doing things that doesn't work very well, or there's a very inexpensive way, and it involves educating the public. Because really, right now, you and I and your listeners today, I've learned something that very few people know, that, golly, you know, you're right, fertilizer does run off. I bet it does. I bet that happens. They found that 20% of the nitrogen in the bay comes from lawn fertilizer. But in some of our lakes that are sick, 80% comes from lawn fertilizer.
Wow.
So, yeah. And again, once it's in there, you can't go get it out. I like to go out on river cleanups and lake cleanups and pick up trash, and thousands of people do that all the time, right? But you can't dive into that water and grab those molecules of nitrogen and phosphorus, you know, like you can that cup.
When is that meeting again? And people should go to that meeting.
They should. It's Wednesday, March 31st at 6 p.m. So if you're in East Hillsborough County, drive up 75 to the 574 exit, go west towards 301, and the very first light there is Falkenberg Road, and the very first right off of that is Queen Palm, and the EPC will be on your left.
And of course, they can call the county commissioners, and they'll give them directions.
Right. That's right. It's
the other
Roger
thing
P.
is,
Stewart Center.
if they miss that meeting, will there be additional meetings?
There will. It's not been announced yet, but sometime in the month of May, the Hillsborough County Commission will have a public hearing. And we're asking the county commission to hold that hearing in the evening instead of 9 o'clock in the morning, because a lot of people can't make it at 9 o'clock in the morning. They work.
That's true.
That's right. Yeah.
Not as many as they used to.
Not as many as they used to, but unfortunately. But you know, a lot of people still work, and so we try to ask the county commission to make that as convenient as possible. So sometime in May.
This really makes sense to me. Who would be against it?
Well, some landscape companies make their money by calling on you every few weeks in the summertime and applying nitrogen. They make more money that way. The more times they come out, the more they earn. And they swear up and down that, no, when I put nitrogen on your turf, it's going to stay there. In fact, over in Orlando, Orange County, they passed an ordinance that said, if you're trained in how to apply nitrogen in the rainy season and certified, you can do it safely in the rainy season. Now, I don't know, over in Orlando, maybe they've got the Magic Kingdom and the Magic basketball team. They believe in magic. You'd have to have some magical way of putting nitrogen on your lawn so it doesn't wash off in the rainy season, because it does. And they're not going to solve that problem. The picture you talked about with the St. John's, it's in one of the photos that we have here. They passed a rule that did the same thing. Said, well, let's train landscapers to sweep the fertilizer off your driveway and put the grass clippings back on your lawn, but let's let them keep on putting it down in the rainy season. That algae bloom up there is so bad they call it the green monster.
It's horrible.
It is horrible. But guess what? They passed that rule. People started doing that. They trained the industry and they trained homeowners. Green monster came back. It didn't help. Didn't work. you got to recognize the fact that it rains in the summertime here in Florida.
And even in the winter now with that El Nino, but that's going to be a passing phase.
And that's a good point, though. On days where, like the day we're taping it here, there's, I think, an 80% chance of rain today, there would be an advisory to landscapers, don't apply nitrogen fertilizer today because it's going to rain. It's raining all day today, and it's going to wash it off. You know, it happens throughout the year, but you can count on it happening in June, July, August, September. And sometime, somewhere, it's going to rain pretty heavy. That's the way it is here in Florida.
Well, we all want beautiful green lawns, but there's got to be a balance between that beautiful green lawn and the money you're spending, the money the government's spending, and just being sure that you're environmentally sound. With that, let's move on to some of the other things that we have with the Seirra Club, things that you'd like to see in the future or things you're working on from an environmental standpoint. The Cone Ranch comes into mind. There's certainly, right now, you have a battle going on between those who would not protect the panther and those who would protect the panther. Can you bring us up to speed on some of those things?
Well, we just filed a suit with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service because they have refused for years and years now to protect the panther. We have no panther habitat. The panther is not protected. He's just out there by himself, just the few dozen that we have left. And there's nothing to say that you can't put a huge development right in the heart of where they live. And they're one of those animals that need a lot of land, need a lot of ground to be able to roam around in. And for some reason, some people don't think that that's important. So we're very close to losing the Florida panther if we don't protect them. So the Seirra Club has taken the lead on that.
I would suspect there's a certain amount of fear having a panther running around in my backyard.
Well, if you build your house where there are panthers, you might expect that to happen, yes. So.
Well, you know, having said that, I feel the same way about alligators. I live on a lake, as I mentioned earlier, and people buy houses on our lakes. There are three lakes on the north side in Sun City Center. And this one couple bought one on Middle Lake and then continually called Fish and Wildlife to get them to take alligators out of it that had lived there their entire life.
Well, typically, I live on the Hillsborough River, and I know the gator who swims back and forth in front of my dock. If you don't feed those guys, they're probably going to, they're going to leave you alone. It's when people do stupid stuff and they give them Kentucky Fried Chicken and stuff like that. And then they
or marshmallows.
Or yes, whatever. They're not choosy. And they start associating people with food. But the panther is a very different animal, obviously, and they need a big range. Alligators are very territorial. They'll stay in the same little lake all their life, but panthers need a big area to roam around in. So if we don't protect their habitat and set up habitat for them, we'll lose them, and they'll be gone. So it's a choice that we have right now. We've asked the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who's supposed to do that, to set aside that land.
How many panthers do we have left? Are they really, truly, that's, I guess, another question I have, are they really, truly Florida panthers that are out there right now?
They are. They are. There were some western panthers, pumas, introduced to enliven the gene pool a little bit because it was the number is so low that they were so inbred, and you can still tell that. But I think we've got 3 or 4 dozen. It's not that many. And we've had several of them hit this year by cars. So when you cut up where they live and put roads in there and they're crossing the road at night, bad things are going to happen.
Okay, let's move on then from the panther to sugarcane growing in the glades. We've been growing sugarcane in the glades for a long time, but I saw down in the Florida Bay, there in the Gulf of Mexico, a huge black plume where one of the rivers comes out of the glades and into the thing. It's not a red plume, it's a black plume.
Right, right. I mean, we have lots of different colors of algae in Florida, depending on how salty the water is and if it's nitrogen or more phosphorus. But these things, all cause these problems. Florida has terrible problems. We have red tide sometimes in the Gulf of Mexico. And if you've ever been to the beach, it's been 5 years since we had that here. That is extremely toxic. That's poison that you're breathing in. It alters the DNA in your lung tissue. It's not good.
I went to Siesta Key once when they had it. I drove over the bridge and on to Siesta Key. got out at the most beautiful beach in the world, right there. Got out, was out of the car no more than about 5 minutes. My eyes stung, I couldn't breathe. Got back in the car and left Siesta Key. I mean, this got to hurt our tourist industry when we do things like this.
It does. It makes me feel like I've got the flu instantly, you know. But that's why the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce, that represents 500 businesses along Gulf Boulevard in Pinellas County, has stood with the Seirra Club, believe it or not, in supporting, well, the fertilizer type of ordinance. Because, again, the nitrogen that makes your grass grow gets into the water, and it makes the red tide grow. It makes all these different types of harmful algae blooms bloom. We had a 14-mile wide algae bloom in Tampa Bay last summer. It's called Pyridinium bahamenense, and it's not red tide. It's not going to make you sick the way the red tide does, but it kills the fish, and it makes Tampa Bay sick.
Yuck.
We're getting too much nitrogen and phosphorus in there. And the good news is that the federal government is now working to clean up our water. The U.S. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has set out some standards. How much nitrogen and phosphorus can you have in this lake, this creek, that pond, that river, before it gets sick? So government knows they've got to keep it below that level. They have a standard. Right now we have no clue. We just wait and see, oh, it's green, I guess that's too much.
Fish are going belly up.
Yeah, fish are going belly up. Guess we got a problem we got to fix. That's not good enough, because the result has been we've got most of our lakes and rivers being that condition.
Phil, I can assume that the Seirra Club would like to have as many members as possible.
That's right.
What would you say to people as a reason for them to get active and to become a part of the Seirra Club? And why don't you just talk to my audience and tell them why they ought to be a part of your organization and how they can do it?
Well, the Seirra Club is America's oldest and largest grassroots environmental group. What's that mean, grassroots? That means it's about people. I'm one of a handful of staff people who have the honor of working with our members, but we have 1.3 million members. And you can go to www.seirraclub.org, and where it says join, click on join. You can join the Seirra Club for $15 a year. And you get a tremendous magazine once a month. You get your local newsletter. Here in Hillsborough County, you'll get the Tampa Bay Group newsletter. Our group meets once a month, the second Wednesday, over at the Hilton Garden Inn on 9th Street in Ybor City at 7 p.m., second Wednesday every month. And you can look at the Seirra Club. John Muir took Teddy Roosevelt hiking. John Muir got people out in hoop skirts and spats and canes and derbies and all that kind of stuff, and took people hiking up on top of mountains. Seirra Club has the opportunity for members. You don't have to go to a county commission meeting to be an active member or write a letter. We have all kinds of activities, but a lot of people join the Seirra Club so they can go hiking and canoeing, paddling in all sorts of areas with someone who's a trained leader, who knows CPR, who is certified to be safe, do it in a safe way, but to take you to some wild and beautiful places that you might have heard of, you might not have, but you might not know how to get there and get in and out of there and have a good time. And that's what Seirra Club is all about. Again, preserving, protecting, and enjoying the beautiful places that we have here.
Yeah, having a good guide adds so much. My wife Phyllis and I just got back from 3 weeks in India, and we had guides at individual spots that we went along the way, and some of them were really great and some of them weren't. But the ones that were really great, like Dilip that we had in Mumbai, my goodness, the man knew everything there was. He added so much to the value of the trip by just taking Phyllis and I out and showing us these great things. So I would imagine that would add so much to an outdoor experience.
That's right, and your friend Dilip charged you, I'm sure, a reasonable fee. The Seirra Club trips, the outings as we call them, are led by volunteers.
Wow.
You get all that free when you join, and like I said, $15, not so much.
No, that's absolutely
so
true.
We've got something going on every weekend, 2 or 3 different activities in the Tampa Bay region with people who, again, they know how to get out there and they know how to do it safely and have a good time and tell you something about where you are and why it's important maybe to preserve that.
Now, is there anywhere, like on your online site, that people could go and see what this proposed legislation is so that those who couldn't make a meeting maybe could read it and then send a note to their county commissioners that they agree with it or would like to have it done?
It's in draft format right now, and we're, as we speak here today, just submitting our comments. So you can go to the EPC website, the Hillsborough County Environmental Protection Commission website, and they have a page there for with the draft ordinance as they put it together. You would actually see the Orange County language in orange font, so you can distinguish that as an alternative where they, think that they've got the magical way of keeping fertilizer on lawns in the rainy days.
Now, we're talking about Orange County, Florida. Immediately when you said Orange County, I'm thinking of California.
There, we got an Orange County too, yeah. So they put it in orange, but the Hillsborough County Environmental Protection Commission has that information on their website. And we're telling the EPC folks what we think of it. Again, let's do, our basic message is, let's do what they've done over in Pinellas County. Let's have regional consistency, because one day soon, we'll be educating the public, hopefully here on cable access and all on the TV stations, about how we have this one set of rules for all of Tampa Bay, because we all have an interest in having a healthy Tampa Bay. It's gotten healthier, but it could get a lot healthier. The seagrass that people plant doesn't quite get enough light to really grow as well as it could, because there's always something growing from too much nitrogen being in the bay.
Yeah, I follow Mary Ella Smith. Mary Ella is very active.
And she's one of our members. Doesn't get paid a penny.
And Bev, she's just an outstanding
Bev Griffith's our chair, yes.
But I also, on Facebook, by the way, I'm on Facebook. It's WN Hodges in Tampa Bay. Go on, come on, be part of our Facebook. But when you get on there, there's a lot of neat people. And actually, I got you on the show because I talked to Mary Ella, who said, talk to Bev. And then Bev talked to you, and then you called me, and here you are.
Right, and I work for them. There are some of our volunteer leaders here in Hillsborough County. And the Seirra Club, one more thing, is proud to put on Earth Day celebration. This year is going to be the 40th anniversary of Earth Day. And just think how far we've come. But think about the challenges we've got in front of us, and think about the opportunities we have. We are looking for a clean energy jobs revolution. That's going to be April the 19th. At Lowry Park in Tampa.
Well, my challenge is to get this program over when it's supposed to. And
all right.
We've run out of time, Phil. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. We've just had Phil Compton from the Seirra Club with us. This is a program you're going to want to watch more than once, because there's a lot of information that he's put out. And I am excited about the Seirra Club. I'm excited about this legislation to clean up our waters. Remember, you're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, And we will see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Phil, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Bill.
Well, that's it. You've just finished watching Spotlight on Government. Each month, we bring you elected officials and others who impact upon your life. We hope that by bringing them to you in a non-threatening environment, you will get to know them better than you would by watching 30-second sound bites provided by commercial television. As moderator of this program, it is not my intention to tell you what to think or how to think, as do the talking heads on MSN and Fox News. What we hope you'll find here is information needed to make up your own mind on the subjects of the day. Programs on this website are delayed by about 30 days to allow airing cycles on Tampa Bay Community Network to be completed. To watch these programs when they're broadcast on Tampa Bay Community Network, simply go to Bright House or Verizon on the channels and times shown. No matter how you watch Spotlight on Government, we're glad you were here. Thank you for your support.